Welcome to the deep dive.
Hmm.
Okay, let's unpack this. Think for a second about how society usually portrays self-improvement or healing.
Oh, it's always so perfectly choreographed.
Right, it's like a cinematic montage. You start out sad, then you're suddenly doing yoga at sunrise. You have this massive, tearful breakthrough in the
And
rain.
then suddenly you're completely cured.
Exactly, you're just marching up this perfectly straight, upward line to the top of the mountain of success. But anyone who has ever actually tried to change a deep habit or, process real trauma knows that is absolutely not how it works.
Oh, the clinical reality shatters that montage completely. I mean, it's totally different.
And that tension is exactly what our mission is today. We are exploring a set of notes and materials from a Georgia-based telehealth therapy practice called Coping and Healing Counseling, or CHC for short.
And this material is fantastic because it gives us a really rare dual perspective.
What do you mean by dual perspective?
Well, on one hand, it offers this deeply empathetic philosophy on the psychology of recovery, like what the patient actually feels. But right alongside that, it gives us the hard logistical facts of how to deliver that care across an entire state.
Right, because before we can even talk about how to get care, we have to understand what the care actually feels like for the patient.
Exactly. The philosophical hurdle of therapy comes first.
And the source's core message tackles this immediately.
Mhm.
It just says flat out, healing isn't a straight line.
Which sounds simple, but it's profound when you're the one in therapy. The no's highlight this brutal contrast. You'll have these good weeks where you feel amazing, lighter, clearer, stronger.
You think, I did it, I'm fixed.
Right. But then, completely out of nowhere, the old patterns creep back. You shut down during an argument or you spiral into anxiety.
And that's when that really defeatist thought hits. The what's the point
Yeah.
moment.
What is the point if I'm just going to keep messing up? It's what the notes call the messy middle.
I love that phrase, the messy middle.
The source reassures patients by saying, it's working even when it doesn't feel like it.
But I want to push back on that slightly. Because when those old patterns creep back in, and a patient asks, what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
How do we actually know it's working?
Well, that's where we have to look at how they redefine growth. Growth doesn't mean never struggling again.
Okay.
It means struggling differently.
Struggling differently. That reminds me of renovating a house.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Like you buy this old house and you want to make it better. But to do that, sometimes you literally have to tear down the walls.
Right, you're smashing drywall, ripping up floors.
Exactly. And right in the middle of it, the house looks so much worse and way messier than before you even started the project.
It's a total disaster zone.
Yeah. Dust everywhere. And if someone walked in, they'd think you ruined the house.
Yeah.
But it's actually part of the process of making it better. You're just in the messy middle.
What's fascinating here is how the source validates that exact frustration. Recognizing an old pattern creeping back, that is a new form of struggle.
Wait, so just noticing it is the progress.
Exactly. Before, the old pattern was just a blind reflex. You didn't even know you were doing it. Now you have the awareness. You are feeling the friction of the struggle, which shows a level of awareness that just wasn't there before.
Wow. Okay, so if healing takes time and you have to push through that incredibly uncomfortable, messy middle, then having consistent support is crucial.
It's everything. If the support drops off, the patient drops out.
Which brings us seamlessly to how a practice actually facilitates that consistency. Here's where it gets really interesting.
The logistics.
Yeah, the logistics.
Here.
CHC operates as a 100% telehealth practice. And because they're digital, using a high-pay compliant platform, they serve all 159 counties in Georgia.
Every single one. That is a massive operational footprint.
It's staggering. Think about someone living in a really remote or rural area.
Right.
Finding an in-person licensed marriage and family therapist, an LMFT, or a licensed clinical social worker, an LCSW, it might be physically impossible.
Or at least a multi-hour drive.
Exactly. And if a patient is having one of those bad weeks, the week where the old patterns are creeping back, the friction of commuting to a physical office might just cause them to cancel.
If you're already asking what's the point, you are not going to sit in traffic for 2 hours to go talk about it.
You just stay in bed.
Right. And that's the genius of the telehealth model here. It removes that friction entirely. It ensures they stay supported during the exact moments they might otherwise just, give up.
It catches them right when they're falling.
Yes.
But geographic access via telehealth is amazing. It really is. But a video link is pretty much useless if the patient can't afford the session.
Or if they log on and just don't feel understood by the person on the other side of the screen.
Which brings us to the final hurdles: financial and cultural access. Let's look at the financial facts from the source.
The numbers here are really striking.
They are. They accept major insurances. Aetna, Cigna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare,
Hmm.
Humana, and that results in really low copays, usually between $10 and $40 a session.
Which is highly manageable compared to out-of-pocket private rates.
Right. But the really wild part is for Medicaid patients. The copay is $0.
$0. No sliding scale, just zero.
So what does this all mean? I mean, for a practice to offer a $0 Medicaid copay that transforms mental health care, it goes from being this luxury item for the wealthy to an accessible right for the most vulnerable people in the state.
It's a structural game changer because if we connect this to the bigger picture, offering low copays of $10 to $40 and having those $0 Medicaid options, that is what actually allows a patient the financial runway to survive the messy middle.
Because they aren't going bankrupt just trying to get through a
Right.
bad month.
Exactly. You can't process severe trauma if you're constantly worried that your therapy session means you won't make rent.
That just adds to the anxiety.
Right. The financial access buys them the time they need to truly heal,
And then there's the cultural access. You mentioned feeling understood by the person on the screen.
which is just as important as the price tag.
The team has over 15 licensed therapists, and the source notes explicitly state they are a diverse and culturally competent group.
That breadth of service is vital. They're treating teens from age 13 and up, individuals, couples, families. They even offer life coaching.
And the specialties cover so much ground: anxiety, depression, trauma and PTSD, grief, relationships, stress.
Well, by offering a diverse, culturally competent team that handles everything from, say, teen school anxiety to severe PTSD, CHC is creating a very broad, very tight safety net.
You don't have to spend the first 20 minutes of your session just explaining your cultural background.
Exactly. You get straight to the work.
So bringing these two halves of our deep dive together, healing is this chaotic, nonlinear process of struggling differently.
It's not a straight line.
Not at all. And seeing that process through requires a modern, accessible support system. Something exactly like the culturally diverse, highly accessible telehealth model that CHC uses in Georgia.
You need the logistics to support the empathy. They have to work together.
They really do. And to you, listening to this right now, if you are in that messy middle today, if you're looking at the dust and the torn down walls and wondering what the point is, please keep going.
It is working.
It is. And if you or someone you know needs this kind of support in Georgia, we have the actual resources from our source material. You can call them at 404-832-0102.
That's 404-832-0102.
You can also visit their website at crctherapy.com or email their intake team at support@ctatherapy.com.
And as we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a final lingering question to mull over.
Let's hear it.
We talked about how true growth means struggling differently rather than not struggling at all. So look at your own life. What does your new struggle look like compared to your old one?
Oh, that's a great question.
Right, because how might recognizing that specific subtle shift completely change how you view your own progress?
It changes everything. Well, that's all for today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.